This is the first of two videos on what American culture was like from the year 2000 through the year 2008. In this first video, we'll primarily focus on technology and science and how that influenced American society. Just as in the 1990s, so much of American culture in the first decade of the 21st century was driven by technological advancement. In 2000, cell phones, which had shrunk to about the size where you could hold it in one hand, first met the internet via a 2G network. The so-called personal digital assistants, or communicators, were expensive, slow, and marketed by companies such as Motorola and Nokia. Newer designs a bit later, such as Blackberries and Palm Pilots, were better. Everything changed in 2007 when Apple, led by Steve Jobs, released the first iPhone with its touchscreen graphics. It could pull up entire websites, take photos, and do a lot more than the earlier digital devices. But it was still primitive by today's models, lacking many of its current functions. So-called apps for iPhone didn't develop until after 2008. Very quickly, however, the phones improved and became ubiquitous. American culture was going to change tremendously and never be the same. As Apple was developing its iPhone, it released in 2001 its first iPod. People could download to their computer music CDs they had purchased, and then for the first time transfer the digital music to a small digital player, easily attached to an article of clothing or placed in a pocket. The iPod could hold hundreds of songs, and it was revolutionary, promising to change the way people listen to music. Apple first opened its iTunes store in 2003, having negotiated deals with major record labels. For the first time, people could purchase downloaded music directly online. It was first available only on Apple's Macintosh, but quickly expanded to Windows. The first social networking sites began to develop as the internet expanded. Several of the earliest were MySpace, founded in 2003, and LinkedIn, founded the same year as a site to facilitate business connections. Soon, however, the dominant social networking site was Facebook, launched in 2004 by Harvard student Mark Zuckerberg and several of his classmates. First known as the Facebook, the site struggled through 2008 to achieve profitability, relying on investors until a model incorporating adequate advertising was established. Zuckerberg took the company public, and it became a behemoth used around the world. Today, Zuckerberg stands as another leading technology billionaire. Websites were exploding in the early to mid-2000s that today define so much of American life. PayPal, launched in the late 1990s, was growing rapidly by 2008. Photobucket, founded in 2003, and Flickr, founded the following year, first facilitated online photo sharing. In 2005, YouTube, a site to share videos, was created and also grew quickly in popularity. Here you can see the original YouTube screen. In 2006, Twitter was founded, allowing participants to send brief messages of up to 140 characters and allowing them to receive automatically the so-called tweets of those they'd agreed to follow. By 2008, individual Americans across the spectrum had established what was called blogging sites. One really incredible site was created in 2001, Wikipedia, which was a free online encyclopedia that was different than what went before the other online encyclopedias. Wikipedia accepted mass contributions and rejected a single editing process. Here you can see in the graph the tremendous growth in the number of Wikipedia articles during the first decade of the 2000s. By the 2000s, given the advances in computers, scientists were making incredible advances in artificial intelligence, or AI, and robotics, laying the foundation for a number of new industries, including, for example, self-driving cars. In 2004, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA's Mars Rover, reached its destination and began to send back unprecedented data about Mars. It lasted way longer than NASA ever hoped it would. Helping to fuel the growth of everything from computers to medical advances was the spread of nanotechnology, altering material on an atomic or molecular level and thus allowing the creation of ever smaller products. From 2000 to 2008, the electric car industry grew with a number of so-called hybrid vehicles using both gas and electricity, and they were gaining unprecedented market share. These included the Toyota Prius on the left and the Honda Insight in the middle, first manufactured in 1997 and 1999, respectively. In 2001, the Ford Escape right was created. Increasingly, electric charging stations began to appear around metropolitan areas. Perhaps one of the most amazing advances in medicine was the completion of the Human Genome Project, first begun in the 1990s. It was an international research project with the goal of determining the base pairs that make up human DNA, identifying and mapping all the genes of the human genome from both the physical and functional standards. In 2003, it was declared complete. Under Bill Clinton, the United States decided that the human genome sequence could not be patented and thus would be available to all researchers. This helped lay the foundation for continued advances in understanding human diseases and perfecting new therapies such as gene therapy. Today, biomedicine and the science of genes promises even greater medical advances in the future. One of the most obvious medical advances during the first decade of the 2000s was corrective eye surgery. It became really popular, LASIK. Medicine continued to investigate stem cell therapy during the decade, but research was slowed by a ban on embryonic cell research enacted during George W. Bush's presidency. In any event, this includes the first of two videos on culture in the 2000s, from 2000 to 2008. This one was on technology and science.